Oh, all right. We did it. Once again, Totally Local Podcast, talking all things, all Jersey Shore, Monmouth, and Ocean County. This is, of course, the quarantine edition. With me, as always, Aaron Levine from LG Insurance. How's it going, Aaron?
Hey, how we doing? I'm doing
Pretty
great.
Good,
great
good. We also have Anthony Mauriello from Mauriello Enterprises, mytaxfella.com.
Hello, gentlemen.
How's it going, man?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Thank you.
And we have Joseph Tuzzio?
Tuzzio, yes.
There we go. Ocean First Bank. Guys, 1 week after another week after another week of unexpected it's amazing how surprising sitting at home could be. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, I mean, let's just jump into it. For all those at home that don't know, Aaron cultivates and coordinates experts, and he basically has me on to ask the dumb questions that I don't think other people might not, have the cojones to ask. So, Aaron, I just want to say, thanks for bringing all these businesses together. It's important for, I feel like it's important for these small businesses. I feel like as much of an expert you might be at your business, you need tax professionals, bankers, insurance companies, attorneys, believe it or not, to come in and answer the questions that are about business, not necessarily about your business. Because there's a lot of people, and tell me if I'm wrong about this, Aaron, but I think there's a lot of people that might be leaving stuff on the table.
Yeah, everything right now. The information is changing so rapidly, and it's just great that we're able to get together every week with professionals of various industry to learn and get an idea of what's changing, what's going on, what we can do better, how we can continue to help each other and support our communities and do everything in there. Last week I think we had a great attorney and a mortgage professional with us. The week before that, we had a CPA and a realtor, and just trying to keep the pulse of the street and see where everything is rolling out there. The insurance landscape is hanging. But last week, the governor of New Jersey put out his 90-day grace period executive order, which screws some things up, just as he did when he put out that mortgage forbearance notice, making it sound like it's forgiveness or it's extended. But, there's a lot of things out there that are screwing up the general public. And it's great that we get together and to chat and rap and hang out and talk to these guys about what's going on and how we can do things better.
So, jumping into it, stimulus for individuals. I just want to start there, and then we could, branch off into businesses and stuff. So, allegedly, people are supposed to start getting their checks on April 15th. Have you guys, Joe? Have you heard of anybody? Aaron, have you heard of anybody kind of getting these checks in the mail yet? Because I haven't.
I don't know. That's a good question for Anthony. Anthony, any clients getting their statement?
I did, yeah. Yeah, as a matter of fact, 2 or 3 of them emailed me this morning saying, hey, I got this extra deposit in my account, and it might be fraud because I already got my refund. Surprisingly quick, but sure enough, true to form, this is their economic stimulus check. So people are pleasantly surprised that they are starting to roll these out and hit people's bank accounts.
That's some good news on the street.
That is great news.
It is.
Who's
Joe, sorry.
Is it who's eligible for this? Is there? I mean, obviously you have to have your taxes filled out, I would assume. Is there? I heard that students aren't really eligible for it. There's people that aren't eligible for it, right?
Yeah, there are some who are and some who aren't. Pretty much, if you are earning the tripwire is about $75,000 for an individual, or $150,000 as a married filing joint couple. Anybody who earns over those limits, it phases out, and it phases out at a rate of $5 per $100 over that limit. So it's not like you made $76,000 and you go to zero. So gradually you'll get less and less of this $1,200 economic stimulus payment. So a married couple, if you make under 150, you're going to get a $2,400 check. If you've got children 16 or under, you'll get an additional $500. And I think another common misconception is that, and I've got a couple of emails with this as well, people think this is an advance of next year's tax refund, and it's not. This is a stimulus payment purely intended to pump the economy a little bit. If you owe back tax money, they're not going to take this and apply it to that money. They're going to still put this in your pocket, which is real cool because unlike any other refund that usually offsets other tax liabilities, this is going to be handed to you.
All right, awesome. Yeah, there's a huge misconception out there, as with anything, I guess, in this climate or in this age that we live in with social media bullshit and everything. But people are saying, oh, it's just it's a loan. You're not getting, but they're writing you a check for better or for worse. They're cutting you. I mean, it's $1,200. We'll see how far you could stretch that, but I mean, it's at least you get it and you put it in your pocket and you don't have to give it back to anybody. So that's pretty good. So,
absolutely.
As far as stimulus is for businesses, we touched on this before a little bit, but everything keeps changing. Joe, maybe you could tell us what kind of businesses can apply for, and what can they apply for at this point?
Well, any business can apply for a lot of the stimulus packages that are out there. There are a lot of programs going on between the federal government and the states programs as well. Here at Ocean First, we're actually only participating in the Paycheck Protection Program, which a lot of people just call the PPP. So as of right now, even nonprofits are able to be eligible for this program. We are continuing to process applications. As of this morning, I think Marco Rubio was on TV indicating, I think he said it was around 290 billion of the 350 billion that was allocated for this program has been gobbled up in the last week for going live. Actually, a week and a half now from going live. We went live on April 3rd. So it's being utilized. Businesses are qualifying. Businesses are being approved. Businesses are getting paid. So this is a huge benefit for the businesses that are eligible and that can take advantage of this program. It's letting them keep their employees on the books. It's letting them keep them off of unemployment. If the business is open, which hopefully they are, it's letting their employees continue to work. If they're not open, unfortunately, for whatever reason, whatever industry they might be in, it allows them to pay their employees for the next 8 weeks in the hopes of having their doors open by that time.
And this is it's a loan, but there's loan forgiveness built into it.
Correct. It is a loan. So people do have to understand, it's one of the things that we had to explain, is that in essence, at the end of the day, this is a loan. It is a loan from the federal government to help support the businesses pay their employees through this time. Now, if the businesses use this amount to pay their employees their payroll for 8 weeks, as well as some additional expenses as well, whether it was mortgage interest expense, rent, utilities, that was another portion of the amount that they could use the funds for. This loan can be forgiven, either in whole or in part. But basically what happens is in 60 days, the banks that are giving these loans out now have to turn around back to the SBA and provide the evidence from these employers how they use the funds. And if they use the funds for the reasons and the needs that they were intended to, then the loan does have the ability to be forgiven.
And the business started April 3rd applying for this stuff.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't want to I don't want to discourage any businesses, that might be like 11 days, behind. They are getting in line, but they might as well get in line now, right?
Absolutely. If anyone has not applied yet and they are eligible, I strongly encourage them applying because there is still money in the pot to be given out. It is a really good program, and that's why, we got involved with it because it is a great way to support the community during this uncertain time that we're in right now. But basically what it comes down to is that these funds are going directly into the pockets of these business owners to, one, pay their employees and manage some other expenses. Very quick, very layman's term for the program is 75% of the amount that they are approved for has to go directly towards payroll expenses. The other 25% can be used for utilities, interest expense, or rent. So as long as the funds are used in those purposes, it can be forgiven.
So let me ask you a question on this. So, a lot of businesses are closed completely, and those businesses have zero income coming in. Payroll protection sounds like it's good for those that are partially affected, needed to reduce staff, and are wanting to keep their full staff on to keep working. But the business that is completely closed right now, who's really in more trouble than the business that's partially closed, PPP is not helpful for them because this 8-week period, it starts when you close the loan.
Correct.
They could wind up having to pay this whole thing back unless the federal government changes that 8-week guideline or comes out with another pool of money for those that are fully closed, the daycares,
Yep.
the breweries, any of the businesses, the hair salons, nail salons, personal care businesses. They're completely SOL when some businesses are partially affected. I don't want to say the restaurants because they're partially affected, but technically they are, even though they're hurting big time.
Absolutely.
So what do you think there's another pool of money coming out for those businesses?
I mean, there's been a lot of talk of a second pool of money coming in. Obviously, there's nothing concrete. There's nothing that's been decided by the federal government yet. But that's why the businesses, this is not just a one-man show here. This is where the business owners really have to reach out to not just their bankers, but their lawyers and their CPAs and their insurance representatives. Everyone that helps support the business behind the scenes should be talking to the business owner about what they should be doing, because you're right, Aaron, if someone's completely closed right now, it can be a double-edged sword, because if they're not going to be open within the next 8 weeks, this forgivable loan is now going to be a loan that needs to be paid back. Now, granted, it's 1%. It's a very, it's a nice interest rate. It's only 1%, but you're only paying it back over 24 months. The first 6 months is deferred, and then you have 18 months worth of payments. And, these loans are 2.5 times their monthly payroll. You have someone that has $300,000, $400,000, or $500,000 that they qualify for, and they have to pay it back in 18 months. It's a hefty bill they pay every month.
Now you want to go down a rabbit hole? you want to hear? I think what else is ironic here, and it may be a little off topic, but it ties in, is that they're offering the businesses these benefits and these programs, as Joe's discussing. Now, as an employee, let's say I am in one of these industries and I've just been laid off. If I'm in Jersey and I have maximum unemployment benefits, I'm going to get $700 a week from New Jersey State Unemployment. On top of that, as part of the CARES Act, I'm going to get another $600 per week. So over the next 13, 26, and possibly 39 weeks, I could be making $1,300 staying home. Good luck getting me back to work, because I'm actually making more money in this time. So talk about pitting both sides against one another, and I hate to sound conspiracy theory, but here they are courting the employers to say, keep your people on payroll, and we've had instances where employers are finding the employees saying, hey, thanks, but it's going to cost you to get me back.
Yeah, thanks, but no thanks. I'm good.
Yeah, now, right. So now, fast forward that, though, come January, when all of these benefits run out, you're going to have something like 9 million people re-entering this workforce. So, again, I think it's a dual-edged sword or a slippery slope here, that they're trying to benefit both sides of the party, yet I think there's a little bit of a seesaw here between the benefits and the incentives here, and the benefits and the incentives here as well.
You better hope that your employees really love you and you have a really awesome business. Otherwise, they're going to tell you to kick rocks and sit at home.
Joe, your family owns a pretty famous restaurant, as does mine, but Tuzzio's in Long Branch. I mean, you look at servers and line cooks, right? Those are the ones if they're the ones on unemployment right now getting that benefit, they might not come back to work. The restaurant industry, once we open back up, the economy might suffer for those tipped employees, especially if we're opened up in a phased fashion where you have to limit your seating in a restaurant.
Exactly.
That sounds trouble. What's your dad saying on that? Or he's just cooking and keeping his mouth shut?
Honestly, he's just, my father, just like yours, he's cooking, is keeping his mouth shut. He's supporting the community in the only way he knows how to, which is cooking 24/7. But Aaron, you're 100% right. The people that are in these kitchens and the people that were serving these tables, to get them to come back in on the books, because one of the requirements for the PPP program is that the employees need to be back on the books. They need to be back on the payroll. And to get them to come off of the unemployment benefits, to come back on for, a server's wage, which is, $3.13 or $3.7, $3 and change an hour, who's going to do that? No matter how long they've been, working for a specific restaurant or business, you can have the best boss in the world, but if I'm making $1,300 a week over on unemployment, you want me to come back on payroll so you can qualify for this program? It's tough. It really is tough.
It's going to be very interesting to see how this all shakes out when we.
The other argument that I'm getting from people is even as far as the business owner. They're saying, hey, listen, I'm putting my neck on the line. I'm signing for these loans. And even if I get my people back, and even if they stay 8 weeks, like you're saying, maybe it's the food industry, and although the lights are turned back on, maybe people are socially phobic. Maybe they don't want to come back out as fast as the rest of everybody else does. I'm still kind of left holding the bag. I took this loan for, call it $100,000 for my payroll, divvied out all of it. So it went from the bank to me to my employees. Who really benefited? Yes, I'm going to get 25% of it toward my operating overhead, but ultimately I'm still assuming the risk to get these employees back on, where after 8 weeks, if we're still where we are today, or if we're still slow and I've got to let them go again, I treaded water. So this is really not as robust for me as a business owner as maybe what meets the eye if it's not an ideal situation.
Wow. It's still up in the air. How Aaron, how'd it go? In order to get the, say, to qualify, you have to go to your SBA lender and fill out the application and everything. How's that process going? You've given us updates so far, Aaron. How's it been going for you?
I should have worked with Ocean First Bank. As Joe said, they're closing loans, and I know the CEO was on CNBC last week.
Oh.
And he gave some data about the number of loans and the dollar amount that they're closing, and it's great. It's great to have Ocean First in the community. But I have a post on my Facebook that people are still commenting on with respect to the loans and the EDA grants. It was a New Jersey EDA update that I put up there. Most people have not seen a dime when it comes to the payroll protection. And I think everybody essentially applied for it, whether through a national bank, a regional bank, or a local bank. I have heard of some people getting their funds and getting them quickly, kind of like, here's the money, we'll figure it out later. And others, most people are still sitting around waiting. And, even if we look at the grant money from New Jersey, anybody that I know that applied for that grant money, that $10 million pool that was out there, got declined for it. And these are the really small businesses, the 1-2 man, the service shops, where there's a limit of money per employee. So there's still a lot of, it's still tough out there. There's so many unknowns and so many things changing rapidly. If you remember, the SBA put out a $10,000 advance that they were willing to do. This is back, I think, on March 23rd or something like that. They said, hey, apply now. In 3 to 5 days, we're going to give you $10,000, right? It sounds like a used car commercial. And nobody heard anything. And I actually got an email today related to that, saying, hey, we've changed the program guidelines, and now if you reapply, you can get up to $1,000 per employee on that advance money for the economic industry, the disaster loan. So it's still rough out there. The word on the street is still tough, and I guess that's why we're out here. We got a question on through Nuno Teixeira, who's sitting on the beach in Florida right now. He said, "I heard that Uncle Sam will look closer to your books if you get the loan." Taxman, you want to address that one?
Well, I think, Joe, like your bank would be a liaison between Uncle Sam and the SBA, and certainly the money. There's a buffer there. But on the EIDL, where we're supplying this information directly to the SBA, you're attesting to a lot of facts, and they're looking for verification. So whether that's going to raise any scrutiny, you have to also remember this is the SBA. This is not the IRS. So still a branch of government, still needs to be respected. There are still guidelines. There are still provisions that need to be adhered to. But certainly, anytime this money does have strings attached to it, not only verifying that you qualify, but then later on proving how you spent it. So yeah, 2 times you're I don't want to say you're serving your head on a silver platter, but 2 times you are certainly opening the books for scrutiny. I think so, Nuno. Good question, man.
Thanks, Nuno. Enjoy the beach, even though he's not really on.
Toes in the sand, yeah.
Toes in the sand. Living the life. So, Anthony, with respect to the PPP, am I going to have more taxes because of the loan? Or if the loan is forgiven, am I going to have to pay tax on that money?
Good question, Aaron. Yeah, no, this unlike any other cancellation of debt, this is, for all intents and purposes, deemed a grant that this forgivable loan will not be taxable to you next year. Traditionally, any cancellation of debt is taxable to you as the recipient or somebody whose debt was forgiven, but not in this instance. So certainly, again, another worthwhile vehicle.
That's great.
As far as, have we talked about like paid sick leave, tax credits, or anything like that? Is that something where, is that different than the PPP and all that stuff, or is that kind of tied into it? How does that come into play? Good, Andrew. That is different. You can't have your cake and eat it too. So like Joe said, his bank is dealing with these PPP loans that ultimately has a component where, if used properly, is forgivable. So therein is the blessing. 100% of that money is yours, tax-free. You've paid your employees. You've paid 25% of your operational overhead. So that money is yours, and you're done. On the flip side, the economic disaster loan, Aaron, you mentioned this earlier, this too has been such a moving target. It started out where it was a $10,000 advance of the loan. Then it was up to $10,000. Now it's up to $1,000 per employee, up to $10,000. You mentioned Marco Rubio earlier. Last Sunday, he shot out 13 messages on Twitter, 13 tweets as far as, hey, this is ambiguous. Do 1099 people count? Do they not? And he's one of the co-authors of this thing, you know? So if you're going for the economic disaster loan, there are tax credits that do come along with it. As the employer, I've got to withhold some tax money from your paychecks. What the IRS is going to do is they're going to allow me a 2-year period to pay those taxes back. They're going to give me some tax credits up to $10,000 per employee. So again, you know, strategically, I'd want to say, hey, am I better off taking this that's going to give me longer amount of time to pay my burden of tax and some tax credits, or should I go here and deal with Joe and a bank like Joe's and say, hey, I want this vehicle, which will ultimately become totally forgivable. Both have some stipulations that you'd want to adhere to, but certainly you'd want to consult with the tax advisor to see which one benefits you in your circumstance. Yeah, good question. Is this the kind of thing where, you know, you're a small business, you're a local small business, And we've heard it on here, a few times, is just go to your SBA lender, go talk to your insurance company, talk to your bank, excuse me. And I'm just wondering how much, like, can a small, I can imagine myself being, I don't want to say I'm a total doofus, but like, I can imagine myself just seeing all of these lines of words and paperwork and forms and just kind of, just hitting the snooze button. Like, how much can an owner of a small business go to you guys, go to professionals and be like, I need help? Like, is it like from the spectrum of like hand holding to, doing it all yourself and I'm just going to point you where to go? Where can people kind of, how much like, can they rely on guys like you to help them out?
Well, honestly, all business owners should be relying on, like I said, their people in the background, their professionals that are there to support them. Me as a lender, I work with small businesses directly. I've always said, and I've always been in the small business space, small businesses are the backbone of our economy. They're the ones that drive it day in and day out. So coming from a small business, a family that owns a small business for who knows how many years, this is a space that I enjoy working in the most, but I can only give so much advice from my end based upon the information that, number one, we need to process a loan, and where they can go get the information. So like I said before, this is not a one-man show when it comes to the business owners and who they should be relying on for their information. The business owners aren't going to know so much. The business owners know what's in front of them, how and what they need to do to make their business successful. Then you have the Aarons and the Anthonys behind them to help them with the information they need to keep them successful. So like I said, this is not a one-man show. They should be reaching out to everyone they have in their professional Rolodex to help guide them through all these processes, because these processes can be so convoluted and so eye-draining that, it, like you said, people just want to hit the snooze button and walk away and say, look, it's not worth it. I don't even want to do this.
I'm out.
I think the business owners know what they think they know. This is like an urban legend. We had calls, I want the forgivable loan, I want the grant, I want the this, I want the that. My friend got the, and when you stop them and say, hey, listen, did your friend actually get that $10,000? Well, no, but they said it's $10,000 per employee. So there's so much spinning out there that you really got to pull back on the reins a little bit. And it's time consuming. These are people sometimes, like you said, Joe, your family's in that food service industry, and not to pinpoint that industry, but these are somewhat desperate times. So people are very, I'll use the word passionate. They're very passionate about what's going on now. Mm-hmm. And there's a sense of urgency, and ultimately, like you say, Joe, we're 11 days into this. And that turnaround time is not always up to you. Everything might be in place. But if the SBA didn't give the bank guide, I know that first Friday, it was like a feeding frenzy. and then we had people say, oh, no, I already put in for the grant. And no, you didn't. You filled out a one-page form on the SBA website. It's not a grant, number one, and you're far from being done, So it's tough. It's tough because a lot of times, by the time they come to us, they've got this preconceived connotation or notation in their head that they already know what's going on and what they need and what they've got to do.
Have you guys had to motivate or say talk some of the businesses you work with kind of off the ledge? Maybe they were freaking out and you kind of have to pull them back and be like, hey guys, it's going to be fine. We're going to work with you on this. Has there been a lot of people coming to you kind of a little, let's say, hysterical about this stuff?
I had one this morning where we were having a text and chat exchange, where, she was having a hard time with it, as the bills keep piling up. The mail doesn't stop. Right, the Trump should close the post office, so the bills can't get delivered, and and have Google stop the bills from coming into the email inbox also. But I think this, our mindset is going in waves when we hear news from the federal government and the state government, and people are taking things in different ways at different times. And last week when the governor closed the state and county parks, that one hit me a little bit because we had been spending a lot of time out on hikes with the family, with my kids, and, getting our fresh air. And then Monmouth Beach, where I live, closed the beaches, so we can't go to the beach. We can go to some of the neighboring towns, but there's a lot of things. So that put me into a not so pleasant mindset. And, unfortunately, I was able to snap out of it and hang out with my kids a little bit, and, it's good. But I think it's all hitting us at different times. And, there's different peoples in different situations with, people that don't have jobs and are still waiting on their unemployment or having trouble getting food. And we've talked a lot about Fulfill and the food bank. And we had Asbury Park Dinner Table, who's doing a great job of raising money and getting dinner to those in need in the Asbury Park community. Good segue over to you, Joe, with respect to the Ronald McDonald House. We have families with children in, I don't want to say in crisis, in need in the hospitals. And it's, how are those families doing over at Ronald McDonald House? Is the house open right now?
Absolutely. From what I understand, the house is open to families. From what I understand, I haven't spoken to a lot of the staff over there in a little bit. I mean, I was, part of the board for many, many years. My term just ended. I've rolled off, but obviously still involved with the organization itself. I know staff is working remotely. There is staff on site. We always have staff on site at the house, whether it's the house manager or a manager parent. But someone is always there on staff. But from what I understand, the families are there because unfortunately, kids sick in the hospital, that doesn't stop because there's a pandemic going on, and that means that the support still needs to be there for these families that are going through even harder times on top of what's going on with everything else. So with, so much going on, we have to remember that organizations like Ronald McDonald House that are supporting families with sick kids still need our support through all this. They need our support throughout the year, but even more during something like this. We can't have the caring cooks come in and cook dinner for the families now. You can't just stop by and, drop stuff off. You have to drop it off outside and hopefully it gets sterilized and brought in. But, the organization still needs support, still needs help. They still need volunteers. They still need donations. So this is also a time that we have to remember that organizations like this still need our support.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think people kind of, especially in the environment that we're in, which is basically like in a bubble, secluded, wherever we're living, we're kind of so closed off from quote unquote normal life, quote unquote, things that are normally going on. People that, regularly need help. We're not even thinking about that because, we're just, hanging out in our house thinking about, what we need.
Right.
And it's across the board, from charities to the service industry to everybody, working in between. I got to give, people have brought it up, seen it on social media and stuff, but you really got to respect, like, the delivery guys, postal workers, the people bagging groceries at the store. It's like, they have to work. They have to be out there. They're obviously, not getting the, people aren't staying up at night and giving them ovations every night. But those people too, like they're still working and stuff. And it's amazing to me, it's obviously hard for everybody. It's harder for most, but it's amazing to me to see people kind of coming together in whatever way they can to actually, help out. I really appreciate you guys coming over and coming over to this virtual office meeting that we had. I think it's really important to have these conversations because, like I kind of jokingly said before, but it was serious. Like there's people like myself that just don't get it, that just don't understand it. And the thing that I think people that own businesses need to understand is there's people like you guys, professionals, that you could reach out to and be like, what the hell am I supposed to be doing right now? So I really appreciate you guys coming on here today. As always, Aaron, thanks for organizing, this whole meeting that we can get out and talk to small businesses. Aaron, do you have any final thoughts or words before we wrap this up?
No, I'm just appreciative of these two guys for joining us today. And we're going to keep submitting claims on the business interruption in hopes that something will change someday. And, if you have questions about the 90 days of grace for your insurance bills that came out last week, send me a note, send me a question via Facebook, Instagram, or email, and I can get them answered. But at the end of the day, pay your bills if you can pay your bills.
Joe, do you have any final thoughts or anything that you think people really need to know before we get out of here?
Absolutely. What everyone really needs to know is that there's still funds available. If you haven't applied, please apply if you're eligible. If you don't know if you're eligible, if you're on the fence, you can go right to the Treasury website. I found that the Treasury website has a little bit more information than the SBA website directly. So it's home.treasury.gov. And there's a red banner right across the top for COVID-19 information. They can click on that, and all the programs are listed there for businesses that they might be able to take advantage of. So get the information there. If you think you qualify, go to the bank that you normally do your business with. Hopefully they're an SBA lender and can process these transactions for you. But they're being processed, they're being submitted, they're being approved, they're being closed. So take advantage while you can.
Thank you very much. So Anthony, final words.
Tax returns, both to file and pay, have been extended. I'm sure everybody knows that by now, until July 15th. So usually and traditionally, tomorrow would be the day to file and pay. You could go right up to July 15th, interest and penalty free. So if you've got some money due to the IRS, know that you do have until July before you have to make that payment. They too are affected by this. So they're on very limited resources. If you need a payment plan, any other options to get through to them will be very difficult. We've got some practitioner lines that we could get through a little bit easier. So if anybody does need anything in a pinch or some assistance, please reach out to us. We'll do the best we can. There's a lot of questions on unemployment. So if anybody needs any help in their filing or not sure what to do or how to do it, please feel free. We're an open door resource for you.
Awesome. Guys, again, thank you very much. This has been Totally Local Podcast, talking Monmouth and Ocean County, Quarantine Edition. If you guys have any questions, reach out to us through the comments. Also, Instagram, totally_local_podcast. Thank you very much. And again, guys, I can't thank you enough for doing this.
Thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Take care.